Good morning, good afternoon. We're back with another Q&A. Anything that I say is not intended to cure you or bypass you and your physician's diagnosis. So just take it with a grain of salt and check with your doc before you implement any of the things that we're going to suggest today. And with that being said, let's dive right in, Steve.
Absolutely. Let's start with Sue from YouTube. Is it possible to detox mercury with the MTHFR gene? I also have low chromium, selenium, and zinc levels. Boy, she's low on everything. Thanks for your input.
When you have that genetic, called a snippet or polymorphism, what you need to take more of is the methylated vitamins, methylfolate, methylcholamine, and then what you need to do is, in addition to that, consume foods that have folate in them, like liver would be good, eating whole food, and really making sure that you avoid any type of folic acid, because that's like a enrichment in a lot of the junk foods. And then part of that problem with that gene, and as I'm talking right now, I'm just trying to curb any big words at the same time, so it's not coming out smooth. But the point is that part of that problem is the inability to detoxify as well as you should. So by increasing that methylation, you will be able to detoxify better. And whatever chelator you use to pull it out, you want to make sure that you do it slowly, because anytime you're pulling out heavy metals, they can re-trigger an immune response and create problems. So I think you can, but you have to do it safely and slowly, not like I used to do with all these detoxes and end up sick in bed for 2 weeks. Because there's one more point. Anytime you detoxify anything, sometimes you release fragments of bacteria that are toxic. They're in what's called biofilms, and they're kind of like a microbe that's protected in like this little calcium igloo thing where it breaks off, and apparently the immune system can pick it up in just very, very, very tiny particles. And one of the effects that creates is it starts to shut down your bile ducts in certain ways. And I did a whole video on this, and this explains when people are about to do a cleanse, they should really take something like TUDCA to kind of keep the bile flowing. So that way, when they do the detox, you don't get this backup like a lot of people have experienced, in which case they can end up with a lot of headaches and nauseous feelings and things like that, simply because the liver is just not free-flowing the bile through the bile ducts.
Wow. Well, Sue, tread cautiously, but that sounds hopeful. Let's go to VArt from YouTube. I'm coming off my final cancer treatments. Yay. I'm sure that's not fun. What supplements should I be taking, and would fasting help me? That's from VArt.
I am about to release a video on what people should be eating diet-wise based on cancer, because one of the biggest thing that happens when you go to the doctor with cancer is, what do I eat? Well, it doesn't really matter. Really? It doesn't matter what you eat? Isn't that important? I think it is. So what I did is I mapped out based on the type of cancer and the genetics, what that cancer lives off of, primarily with the fuel. And so there's certain eating plans based on the type of cancer you have and also how advanced it is. In addition to that, I did list a series of supplements in that video that you can watch, but some ones that are really important would be vitamin D, high amounts of vitamin D, magnesium, zinc. But in the video, I give you a more complete package on that. But I've done a lot of videos on prevention, but this one is basically what to eat if you have cancer. And I'm sure I'm going to get some critics on that, because they're going to say, well, the research isn't out yet. And that's true. But when I go through the rationale or the logics of why we recommend those foods, it will make a lot of sense, and it's worth a try, because what else are we going to just eat whatever and not really help that, because like, for example, cancer can live on different fuels. So why would you provide that fuel? Why not starve the cancer? One thing unique about cancer too is that if you eat the same diet over a period of time, the cancer will adapt to that. And so if you're trying to starve off a fuel, it'll just go to another fuel. So this is why part of this video is about rotating the diet every so many days to that way keep the cancer from adapting, because our cells are very, very flexible and healthy, but cancer cells are very sick. They're always living on the edge. So we want to take advantage of that weakness to starve the cancer off. So stay tuned for that video.
All right, very good. V-Art, I know that we speak for the whole world and hoping that you have a nice, thorough recovery from that. Thanks for sharing this with us. Mo from YouTube, is it true that blackstrap molasses can help reverse insulin resistance? If yes, can people on healthy keto take it? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it can, because it's really loaded with sugar. It does have some vitamins, it has some minerals, but it still has plenty of sugar because that's what it is. And so I don't think that would be the smartest thing. However, there's tons of videos on going low carb to help reverse insulin resistance and diabetes. And there's a lot of evidence to show that as well. So if you have diabetes, you want to go low carb. And I actually released a video recently. I don't know if I actually did release it or not. It might be out coming up soon, but I go into the mechanism of how you should deal with diabetes and the best foods to eat and what you should do and the strategy and the nutrition. So stay tuned for that video.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Dr. Berg. So as you know, I'm not a clean eater all the way, but I do 420 fasting. My blood sugar is 80. Is that in any way part due to fasting, even though I may not, be best behaved on keto, but I don't think I deserve those numbers.
What you're looking at, Steve, is your blood sugars, which is it's called the downstream different, let me start over, because I want to just explain this very simply. All these diseases start at a very core root, and then they go through different phases until you end up with diabetes, and then you end up with diabetes with complications, right, as it progresses. The question is, how could anyone in this entire process have a blood sugar of 80, which is normal, or normalized blood sugar, even though they eat a lot of sugar? How can that be? It's because there's something behind the scenes that is just like working like crazy, and that's insulin. So a lot of people will have normal blood sugars and they think they're fine, they're out of the woods, but what they don't know, as soon as we're eating sugar, that insulin is coming out and just grabbing and pulling out like a vacuum, working like crazy, to the point where those cells and the pancreas get so exhausted they can't work anymore, and then you develop diabetes. That cycle takes 15 to 20 years. So just because you have normal blood sugars really means nothing, because you're looking at a biomarker that is not, it's too superficial. Same thing with cholesterol. It doesn't really give you, these are all down chain, biomarkers. We need to look at a better marker would be your fasting insulin. That would tell us where you're at, Steve. So A1C is good too, but I like the fasting insulin, and you can really pick up where you're at and that versus blood sugars. But good question, Steve. You're thinking.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to take it to heart too. I was bragging. I think I'll slow down. Samueli from YouTube. I do a 3-day fast every month for the past few months, but when I get on it, I get severe body pains. I do take potassium, magnesium, glycinate, vitamin D3, K2. Is Sam missing anything?
So I don't know where the pain, usually the pain is supposed to go away. So if you're getting severe body pains, that's interesting. I would need a little more data. Is it in the lower back? Is it somewhere else? If you're taking vitamin D and you're taking, maybe omega-3 fatty acids, maybe there's something going on with not enough sodium, because I do know that a lack of sodium can create problems in your muscles, especially if you don't have enough. And that's usually happens when you do a prolonged fast. So it's hard to tell. I think I would just rewatch some of those videos, and then there has to be some deficiency of something that you're running into. You have the subclinical, and then you go into it. Is it related to digestion? I don't know. I'd need more data to figure that out.
All right, very good. Here's the first swell question for the day.
Okay, true or false? Infrared light from the sun can penetrate A, 2 inches into your body, or B, through the entire body.
Interesting question. Climb out audience, as we know you will. Mary Moore from Rumble, what does ascorbic acid do in our food ingredients? Are there any benefits to ascorbic acid?
Ascorbic acid is part of the vitamin C complex. It's not the complete vitamin C like they'll say. They'll sometimes associate, oh yeah, ascorbic acid is vitamin C, but in nature, it never comes like that. Vitamin C is a complex of different things, not just ascorbic acid. It's an antioxidant. It's needed. It's not necessarily, the only one. And so in your body, you use these antioxidants to help, dealing with free radicals and damage and inflammation and things like that. And then they all tend to work together. So let's say the vitamin C releases its electrons to stabilize something here. Then there's some other antioxidant that will lend them more electrons to balance that vitamin C out. So there's quite a bit of research on ascorbic acid being used for all sorts of things with therapeutic benefits, and even using in high doses. And so I'm staying away from that topic now because I'm seeing conflicting information. And so I don't really know. Honestly, I do not know if that's the best thing or the worst thing. I can't tell you. I do know this. There was a friend of mine who went to get cancer therapy, and he used seriously high doses of ascorbic acid. I'm talking about like over 250,000 units, which is quite extreme. And he came back, and he's like, all these little varicose veins and popped out, and hemorrhoids and all sorts of things, which is and bleeding gums. So I think what happens when you take way too much of something out of the normal complex as a fractionated thing, which is not actually natural, then it could create other deficiencies. Maybe because vitamin C, as part of it, has bioflavonoids, which actually support the vascular capillaries, and maybe somehow that creates a deficiency where you end up with more varicose veins. These are just theories, Steve. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure.
All right, very good. Well, the audience can tell us lots of things, like an instant return on our question, which asks, true, false, infrared light from the sun can penetrate A, 2 inches into the body, or B, all the way through the darn thing. And 60% of our respondents say it's answer B. And let's see, answer B, which is all the way through. And 40% say it only goes a couple inches. Who's right?
So I just interviewed Dr. Roger Shute, who's really knowledgeable on light therapy and sun. It's just going to be a fascinating video when I release it. I was just blown away because we did an interview long ago about how the UV infrared from the sun, which is over 50% of that light, only penetrates, like I think 8 centimeters or something like that, or just a couple inches into the body. And then he comes back and shows me this study that shows it actually penetrates through the entire body. And I was like, this is incredible that you go out in the sun, right? And some of that light is going right through you. I mean, that's just fascinating, the depth. And not only that, let's say you're trying to get more sun into your retina, or from an angle to get more of the infrared to support the eye. They've done experiments to show that you could even keep the entire head covered and shine light, infrared, into a lower part of the body and get benefit in the retina, because apparently there's this whole communication network between mitochondria I mean, I was just blown away. So wait till you see that video interview. I was like, I was more blown away than probably he was, but I was just like, I've never heard some of this stuff before, but he's into it hardcore, and it's just a wealth of information on light therapy and sun.
Boy, a lesson for us all. We're all sequestered to our homes in 72 degrees and iPhones. No wonder we're all a little wacky. So let's get outside into the sun.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that today, Steve, as we go through these questions.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. How about Claudia from? No, let's go to one of our guests. In this case, it's Sage, early bird from Mission Viejo, California, and she's chosen not to come on with her face. So, Sage, if you're there, go ahead with your one question for Dr. Berg.
Thanks, Steve. Good morning, Dr. Berg. My question is a keto question. So, what should I do when having high LDL, underactive thyroid, no Hashimoto, osteoporosis? I want to know which keto program. I am taking Urtatka, I'm taking magnesium glycinate, vitamin C, D, also practice intermittent fasting. I'm confused because the keto diet is based on high fat, low carb, eat more, plus like cruciferous, where hypothyroid says based on more carbs and avoid cruciferous. LDL says low fat, eat more red meat, eat more carbs, and more cruciferous. And osteoporosis, and for that they said avoid cheese and fat, and osteoporosis said eat more calcium, drink more milk, have more cheese. Please, Dr. Berg, any guidance we highly appreciate it.
Wow. Do you have an hour where we can discuss this? But
Absolutely.
here's the thing. Yeah, I know that this is a massive confusion. I'm going to give you a couple little things to kind of sort it out. Okay. Number one, what makes keto is a low carb. You cannot get into keto just by increasing your fat. So that's kind of an extra thing that I wanted to bring up. So I don't think you need to like start dumping massive amounts of fat, but I wouldn't be afraid of fat, even if you had high LDL. The danger with LDL is when your carbs start going up. Okay, so then you start creating the small, dense LDL particles. So I think it'd be very helpful to start watching some of the videos from the physicians that talk about the two different types of LDL, the keto docs out there that really help you understand about the LDL, because you have to. It's very confusing, and I don't want to go into it now. But there's some data that will show you that you don't have to worry about your LDL if you're on a low carb diet. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the bone loss. If you're postmenopausal and you have bone loss, there's a hormonal component to that, and so I have videos on that. I think that takes a long time to reestablish, and the way you do that is just with a healthy diet, low carb, not high carb. High carbs does not make your bone solid, but just making sure that the quality of calories that you're eating provide all the raw material to build bone, like vitamin K2. Where do you get that? You get it in fatty foods. So you might not be afraid of like European cheeses, for example. You have a lot of vitamin K2 in there. Also, there's a great supplement I probably would recommend, which is vitamin K2. But mainly when you buy vitamin K2, the MK7 version, it's hard to find it in milligrams because it's usually in micrograms. But they did a study in Japan on women with osteoporosis and found that if you raise the K2 up in the milligrams ratios, because you want to take the vitamin D2 with vitamin D3 with it, there's been some favorable outcomes with osteoporosis that are just mind-blowing, actually, taking, instead of micrograms, taking milligrams. And there's only a couple companies out there. I think Life Extension has one. There's another company that has the higher doses of the K2, because that would be very important to make your bone solid. And then if you also have a trace mineral, because bone needs boron, bone needs manganese, and bone definitely needs a lot of magnesium. So these are all just kind of things that are really important. And then also bone has a good portion of collagen. So you want to have collagen as a part of the diet, and also maybe supplement that. And then high quality protein, like red meat. So I think a lot of these things can be sorted out by focusing on the quality of calories and supporting the bones with the right nutrients, but to keep the carbs low.
Sage, thanks for a great question and getting up so early in Mission Viejo, California. We appreciate it. And Sage, here's a question for you too, number 2 for the day.
What is the primary reason why LED lights are unhealthy for your eyes?
Interesting question. All right, let's find out. So we have a couple of other people in the green room from the UK, but in addition to that, we'd like to say thank you from the UK, Canada, Mexico. These are people watching. Romania, Jordan, Armenia, India, Australia, Denmark, Rwanda, Curacao, Iran, Spain, Singapore, Cameroon, Nepal, Slovakia, the Philippines, Oman, the Netherlands, Greece, Japan, Eritrea, Sweden, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Trinidad, and Tobago. By the way, one of our guests corrected me that last week. Thank you for that. Peru, Brunei, Switzerland, Poland, Belgium, Ukraine, Pakistan, Panama, the Virgin Islands, Vietnam, Italy, Chile, American Samoa, South Africa, the United Arab Emirates, Austria, Colombia, Moldova, Finland, Malta, Qatar, Indonesia, and of course all across these United States. And I hope I said that one country right. I'll check on that. All right. Thank you all, everybody around the world, from checking in with us. And if we missed anybody, please ding Terry, our producer, and he'll make sure that we mention you on the air. Let's go to Vincent from Rumble. What does pain in the right rib cage, just under the armpit, indicate? I only feel it when I eat.
Yeah, I had that for 15 years. That is probably some congestion within the bile ducts that are traveling from your liver into the gallbladder. It's not necessarily just a gallstone. It's probably you have something called cholestasis, which is the bile flow is a bit stagnant and thicker, like sludge, and it can back up and put pressure underneath the right rib cage and make it feel like there's something going on with the rib. And so you can actually manually with your hands, after you eat, kind of massage it in that area on both sides, left and right, to give you relief. But ultimately, I think that Tutka on an empty stomach, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, would greatly help you, and maybe even add some bile salts when you eat. But that'll start thinning things. And then you have to ultimately look at the root cause, what you're eating. There is something you're eating that's probably causing it. For me, it was too many nuts. In the past, also, it was grains. Oh my gosh. And seeds, like all that stuff, not good. So when you start going low carb, that should go away, but junk food will do it, especially powdered protein, especially soy protein will do it. But there's certain things will aggravate you. And so keep a list of all the foods that create more of that problem and then eliminate them, because it's usually diet related.
Okay, well, as promised, Terry has got some other ones. We'd like to do a shout out to our additional viewers in Palestine, Germany, Jamaica, Venezuela, Kuwait, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. Thanks, folks, for watching and letting us know that you're out there. Let's see. Paula from YouTube, what are the benefits of taking colostrum?
Immune benefits. Colostrum is the first part of the milk. So if you're getting it from a cow or you're getting it from a sheep, because you're not going to be able to buy the breast colostrum. But what's interesting is that it has two things in it. It has and it's a magical fluid, because it has the mother's immune system. So it helps to give you a part of your innate immune system. Now, you have two immune systems. You have one that's acquired, that you get by experiencing infections and going through infections and training your immune cells to develop that. But your mother, or you can piggyback off of an animal's the immune system from there, because there's a lot of different immune factors that can support someone that doesn't really have a good immune system. That's one thing. There's also been some research on it can help leaky gut. That was interesting. And then also it can act as a probiotic. Not recently, but maybe a few months ago, I did a video on L-reuteri, and you can actually mix that with some pasteurized milk to make a type of yogurt that enhances the arrhythmias microbe, which is really amazing to improve oxytocin, which actually reduces stress. And where does that come from? It comes from breast milk. So if you weren't breastfed, chances are you don't have that microbe. So you're going to have to, consume that yogurt to get it back there. But it's a real key microbe. And you get probiotics from your mother. Also, you can get probiotics from the colostrum that you buy, but make sure it's freeze-dried. Okay, don't get the heated colostrum. Try to find a freeze-dried colostrum that can give you those immune benefits. Now, I would also recommend to take really tiny amounts of it at first, because sometimes you're having it from a different species. You could react to it immune-wise, potentially, but maybe not. So just take a little bit at a time, slowly increase it, and see how you feel.
Okay, very good. Now, there's a reason I'm bringing my noggin up here, because our next question, Crystal Marie from Rumble. We do a lot of fasting and healthy keto, and together we have lost 170 pounds, and here's our sacred bell to acknowledge that. We take a lot of supplements, but now we're both losing our hair. Now, I'm not a big keto guy, and my hair's gone, and then you'll look at, if you would, example B, which is Dr. Berg. He and his wife have a full head of hair, and no one follows the keto diet, a good, clean keto diet, more thoroughly than they do. So I just wanted to sort of preempt this question. There's a lot of stuff online that says people are losing their hair doing keto, but I know a couple of folks that are absolutely rigorous about it, and that's not the case. So Crystal Marie has asked that question. 170-pound weight loss, losing her hair.
Okay, well, this is a toupee. I'm going to show you right now.
Okay.
The thing that you need to know about hair in general is that one thing that's at the root, no pun intended, at problems with the hair is insulin resistance. There's an insulin resistance problem for that could be one of the potential causes. Even take a look at polycystic ovarian syndrome. Women that get thinning of the hair because of polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a condition where you have higher androgens. Well, guess what will create higher androgens? Too much insulin from insulin resistance. So there's a direct connection there. And then you have male pattern baldness, which is another androgen problem. They have too much DHT, which is a very powerful form of testosterone. And if you actually do even a search on does insulin resistance or high levels of insulin affect that, you're going to find, yes, it does. So is going on low carb going to help you with hair loss? I don't know, but it's probably one of the things that might contribute to an improvement in your hair. But of course, there's other things as well. I did a video recently on that, with all sorts of things that have the most research behind it. And so you can look at that, because I shared some new things that I never knew before. But it's one of those things where I don't want to make any claims. What I'm trying to do is give you a potential thing to try to see if it can help you. And then if it does, wonderful. If it doesn't, I give you a couple things to try. So maybe you want to try something else.
All right, very good. Good luck with that, everyone. Quiz question number 2, asked to the audience, what is the primary reason why LED lights are unhealthy for your eyes? And let's see, excuse me, where the heck did that go? Forgive me, everybody. Oh, here we go. 66% of you say it's harmful to the retina. 24% say it can disrupt sleep patterns. And the final 10% say it causes headaches and eye strains. Do we have any winners today, Doctor?
Okay, I guess I should have rephrased the question a little bit differently. When you're dealing with LEDs, the great majority will only give you part of the light spectrum, okay? And because the whole goal is to create a very bright light that that's very efficient. So in the olden times, they had incandescent lights, which were not very efficient, a lot of wasted energy. But was it really wasted energy? Because they put on a lot of heat, and people are like, oh yeah, that's just going to be a problem. And so unfortunately, they're going to be enforcing this rule in 2028, which is going to mandate that you could really only buy certain types of light bulbs, like the LEDs and very narrow spectrum of visible light. Steve, this is going to be a big problem. I do not like when they start mandating light bulbs, and they're not. What about Doritos or donuts, right? Are they going to allow those? Of course they are. Let me just kind of tell you something about an incandescent light. That provides way more of a spectrum of that includes infrared. If you take a look at light bulbs, LED, there's virtually no infrared coming through there, which means that we got mostly like green and yellow and blue. They're heavy on the blue. So now we don't get the infrared, but we get these other spectrums. You got to realize infrared is super therapeutic to the eye and the body as far as giving you protection against these other wavelengths, especially blue light. So yes, you can go out in the sun and get infrared, and you should. But if you're sitting in front of an LED light that's a limited spectrum without the infrared, this is going to create a lot of problems for you. And there's a ton of research on this. And probably one of the problems among others is the lack of vision, especially age related. And all of a sudden now you need more and more light to see, and you have a problem with the mitochondria in the retina. I really believe from this interview I did with Dr. Roger that it's because of the lack of infrared and the heavy doses of these artificial lights that we're exposed to. It might seem like an insignificant thing, but it's a game changer when you start learning about it, because he's just having some of his patients just switch out the lights and trying to find something that's a full spectrum or even incandescent if you can find them, and seeing huge benefits. But not only, you don't even need to do that. You need to just spend at least a period of time outside in the sun to get that infrared, because 93% of the population, doesn't get enough outside exposure. So it's something that's very significant. I'll be doing more videos on it, but put it on your radar, put some attention on it, and definitely don't expose yourself to too much artificial light all day long without the sun.
All right, great counsel, I'm sure. Here is quiz question number 3.
All right. If you were to pick one root cause of all chronic disease, what would that be?
Audience, I know you'll leap right on that. In the meantime, let's go to Luna from YouTube. Could you please explain what causes ketoacidosis and how to avoid it when doing prolonged fasting?
That is only going to happen if you're a type 1 diabetic and you forget to take your insulin. So think about what low carb does. It lowers your insulin, but we do need some insulin. The problem with type 1 diabetes is you don't have any insulin at all. It's like gone because the pancreas is like not producing any. So then when you eat carbs, there's nothing there to regulate your blood sugars. So if you're on a low carb and you're a type 1 diabetic and you're not regulating your blood sugars, you can get an out of control situation with ketones to the point where they can rise much, much, much higher than normal. And they can put your body into a state of acidity where it could be dangerous. Again, this is very rare. And if you're not a type 1 diabetic, you don't have to worry about it. So, but if you are, then just make sure you take your medication and check your blood sugars, and you'll be fine.
Right, very good. Let's go to let's go to Pooja from YouTube. I often lose my sense of smell and taste, but when I eat potassium-rich foods, they return again, and my stress levels decrease. How come? That's a good problem, I guess.
Well, I think I'm not sure about the potassium, but I think that to really solve that problem, you need more zinc, because zinc has a lot to do with taste and smell receptors, and I think you might have a subclinical problem with that. But you also realize that potassium's involved with zinc in many different biochemical reactions, so there could be something there. But Start taking more zinc, and I think your problem will be gone.
Okay, very good. We have another guest, this one from UK, Abada, and she's also chosen to be visually anonymous. So, Abada, if you're there, go ahead with your one question for Dr. Berg, please.
Hello, doctor. My problem is for my daughter Zainab. It's her hair. Like she used to have a dandruff. To treat that, I use apple cider vinegar. Somebody told me like apple cider vinegar mixed with henna powder and senna powder and a fenugreek seed leaves, dried seeds leaves powder. No leaves, the seeds powder. Yeah, and I used that, and for a couple like 3 years ago I used that, and after that, like I don't know, it's a side effect of that, like she gets like really, her scalp is producing really oil, too much oil, and which makes her hair very weak now, and they are falling a lot now. You can like scalp is very visible as well. Like I used that remedy for 3 years ago, and she's still like excessive amount of the oil that's producing by her scalp. I'm really worried about it, and that's my question. If you can guide me, like how to make it better or something. Thank you.
So I've done several videos on the hair, and I think you mentioned psoriasis, which is a microbe, that's growing there because the bacteria in there is not balanced correctly, and so there's a whole bunch of things you can do topically, but I would focus a lot on what she's eating. I think she needs to support the microbiome. I think she needs to go low carb. I think she should probably take fermented foods, like sauerkraut or kimchi, something like that. I think that's going to ultimately help, and with a good amount of vitamin D. One of the things you got to be cautious too with the water and the showers. There's so many chemicals in the water. You have fluoride sometimes, and also chloride, and which actually sterilizes the skin, and then all of a sudden it kills out the microbes, and then you lose the protection. So I've done videos on doing even like a yogurt type treatment on your scalp and leaving it on there for a little bit and then washing it off a few times a week, which should help you. There's also rosemary oil that you can put into the hair. But again, these things, I wouldn't overdo it because you want to have something that has a property that's selective to the microbe that you're trying to suppress, yet give the hair a chance to kind of come back. When you have excess oily skin, then we have a problem with the sebaceous gland in the hair, in which case you probably need more zinc in the diet that can help regulate that oil. So again, what I would do is I would bring her diet up in quality and make sure that's handled, and probably the oiliness will go away, and then do these other things, and then watch some of my other videos. I did one recently, and some people think it's like crazy to recommend this, so I told them not to mention my name, but onion juice, believe it or not, on your hair has some fascinating effects. And hey, I didn't make this up. There's actually a randomized control trial on this. So I quoted in the video. I mean, it's quite interesting the effects that can do on just the quality of hair and even hair growth. So you can check that out. But just don't mention my name when you do it, okay?
No kidding. And stay away from public. I guess that must be interesting. Anyway, Abada, thank you, and we hope your daughter finds some relief. Let's go to quiz question number 3, I think, for the day. Yes, there it is.
Yep, and I already asked that question, so you have to give me the answer, Steve.
Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. Okay, so you asked the question, and here's the answer. 74% of our respondents blame inflammation. Let me read the question. If you were to pick one root cause of all chronic disease, what would it be? And I said 74% said it's inflammation, 16% say it's ultra-processed food, and 10% say it's insulin resistance. Any winners today on that one?
So so you're all have good answers. It's I'd spent a lot of time looking at this, and I something popped out as kind of like one umbrella cause that I found super interesting. There's actually some really credible research on this that I don't even know about, and it's basically it's called ancestral mismatch. Ancestral mismatch. Now, right off the bat, you're crying, what the heck are you talking about? Well, it's basically, we are living in modern times. We are living in an environment with food, nutrition, environment that just does not match our biology, of how our biology and DNA and cells were developed long ago. So it's this mismatch that really is at the root of nearly every disease. If you really look at it, it'll make a lot of sense. For example, the light from the sun, we get artificial light. Food, ultra-processed food, that's artificial food. Our body does not do well on that. And also the timing of when to eat too, eating so frequently with all the snacks. This is something our genes, our biology has never been designed to deal with. Even my father, who was in 5th grade at what year was that? I can't remember. It was I think it was in 1948. His 5th grade. They didn't have grocery stores with aisles of snack food like they have now. Your parents said, don't spoil your appetite, right? So, and then we live underneath artificial light, and then we go to bed, we're trying to sleep, we don't sleep. So if we can just match our lifestyles to what our genes were developed in that environment, we can literally get at such the root of the problem that we can kind of wipe out a lot of problems. We got toxicity, we're swimming in a sea of chemicals, plastics. I mean, I can go right down the list. So I think it's going to be really important going forward to dissect your life and just see what you need to kind of change, and lifestyle changes. It's not hard to do that. And I think some big ones are light, foods, activity level, exercise, right? We're trying to, physical work. We used to work a lot more. Now there's no effort. You don't even have to have any effort, Steve, to get food. You could literally on an app order food in the middle of the night, and they can deliver it to you. So you don't have to go kill an animal to get food. So right there tells us what you should be doing, Steve. You should be out there in the woods looking for food each night.
All right. Well, if you could excuse me for a half hour, I'm going shopping in the wilderness. Or I'm going to present quiz question number 4, which is right here.
Okay. What fuels can cancer live on?
All right. That was short and sweet. And I think we touched on it a little bit, so that's great. You should be poised to answer that question, audience. And let's go to Trish Ann from Rumble. My DHEA levels are extremely low. I'm now on a melt-away tablet that we hope will help. The rest of my hormones were checked and fewer off a bit. What are your thoughts about restoring the DHEA levels to normal? And what is DHEA, Doc?
That's a precursor for certain hormones, sex hormones. And what you should realize, if you're male or female, if you're male, you can get more of that than female. If you're female, just take enough to satisfy what you need. Don't go crazy, because then it might generate potentially more androgens. So DHEA is a precursor, and if you're low, definitely take some. You're probably going to feel a lot better when you take it, because it's the raw material. And another raw material for hormones is cholesterol. So this is why when someone's on a low cholesterol diet, sometimes they can't provide enough raw material for their hormones, and then that suffers. So that's good that you discovered that. It'd be interesting to see what happens once you start satisfying that. But again, if you're female, just take a smaller amount at a time and then get retested.
Okay, very good. Now, Daniel, our final guest for the day, has been rotting away in the green room now for about 43 minutes, so we appreciate his patience. And Daniel, would you go ahead with your one question for Dr. Berg? You're on the air.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Can you help with trauma work? It's big trauma work, and art murmurs for the last 6 months. Thank you.
So the first question was with trauma. Explain that first question.
Fall off a roof and attempts on my life over the years.
Oh, okay. So you had trauma,
Multiple
and also now you have. Okay, and then you also have arrhythmia problems, right?
Yes.
Is it atrial fibrillation?
No clue. No one's checked me out.
Okay. So a couple things with let's talk about the atrial or the arrhythmias first. I think you can greatly benefit from a higher amount of magnesium glycinate in your diet over a period of some months to reestablish the key electrolyte that your heart needs to keep that heart in rhythm. The nice thing about doing that would be you could probably also help the trauma that your body's experienced, whether it's physical or mental. But yeah, the trauma creates higher levels of cortisol and also sympathetic nervous system response. So magnesium is going to be a key thing. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen. I've done a lot of videos, if you could find one, on, you said falls. So if you fell on a certain part of your body, that trauma sometimes can be stored in the body. And I show you techniques to kind of physically work on that. I'll just give you an example. If you fell on your tailbone on the cement, the force travels up to the back of the neck. And there's all sorts of techniques you can do to release that. And I've done a significant amount of work on physical trauma in my clinic for 30 years. So I have a lot of videos on that. You can watch that. But I think the quick answer for you for that heart arrhythmic issue would be to take a lot more magnesium. Now, that being said, potassium is another electrolyte that's important. Sodium is another electrolyte. So, but those are easy to get. Magnesium is usually deficient in most people. Last thing I want to say is that one thing I discovered with myself, I was developing an arrhythmia, and I have a lot of potassium, but I still had this arrhythmia. And I got an EMF tester, electromagnetic field tester. I used the Trifeld, and it's a device that measures electromagnetic fields. And I went all through my house, and guess where I found the most problem? It was right on the wall behind where my bed was. So when I would go to sleep at night, I was being bathed in 8 feet of magnetic field. And that was coming because the wall, there was something, wires were crossed in the wall, that I literally had an electrician take down the wall, fix all the wires, and all of a sudden those arrhythmias completely went away. What a coincidence. So the more you spend close to EMF energy in your computer, that can affect the heart's electromagnetic fields as well.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel. Thanks for sticking with us, and we hope you find some relief. Let's go to Zoe Anna from Rumble. When I wake up in the morning, my stomach starts to churn, my heart beat rapidly, and blood sugar quickly spikes. What could be causing all of this? Thank you, from Zoe.
So this is interesting because a lot of health problems happen in the early morning, simply because you have this circadian wave that occurs. And in the early morning, you will have the lowest magnesium. Again, magnesium pops out, and that's related to a lot of problems. However, if your blood sugars are higher, that's called the dawn phenomena. And the great majority of someone's high blood sugar in a diabetic is not coming from the dietary sugar they're eating. It's coming from their own liver making too much sugar. Why? Because there's a glitch in the system where you have such bad insulin resistance that the signals are like, oh, we don't have enough sugar, we better make it. And it starts making it out of protein and ketones and fat. And so that's probably where a lot of your problem is happening. You need to go on the healthy version of a ketogenic diet for quite a few months to correct that. But in the meantime, in the morning when you get up, you probably will benefit from a long walk because that'll burn up that sugar and you should feel a lot better.
Good luck, Zoe. Hope that works for you. Let's answer quiz question number 4, which asks, what fuels, plural, can cancer live on? 75% of our respondents say it's sugar or glucose. 20% say it's refined carbs. And the final 5% say it's glutamine or fructose. Those are pretty lofty answers. What do you think, Doc?
So I did a big deep dive on this, and I rejected the information I'm going to share with you for quite some time because I just said, no, it can't be. There's no way. But I kept reading a lot of the research, And I'm going to release the video on the food diet, what foods you should eat if you have cancer, or what meals would be good. But this is what I found. The majority of cancers will live on glucose and glutamine. They're addicted to glutamine, which is an amino acid. It's hard to avoid unless you're on a low protein diet. And so if you start cutting down your carbs, it'll just kind of go after glutamine, right? If you start cutting down the glutamine, it'll go after carbs. So, so we have that, but there are some cancers that also can switch over and start eating lipids. Those are fats. Yeah.
All right, very good.
There are also some cancer that can also consume branch amino acids. And then also there's cancer, especially the late stage cancer, because it's so desperate, will switch its chemistry to actually eat ketones. Now, I know someone's going to have some nasty comment down in the description, but just wait till that video comes out. Take a breath, read the data, make up your own mind. But as much as I hate to admit it, certain type of advanced cancers can live on ketones. So before you go, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat now? I'm not talking about preventing cancer. I'm talking about if you have cancer and the stage of cancer and the type of cancer. I'm going to release a great document you can download, and it makes a lot of sense because depending on where you're at, you should be eating this versus that. But then you would rotate the diet around so many days. You'd rotate it to this, to that. So that way you have a chance of survival because you're constantly keeping this cancer at bay. And then also on top of that, there's supplements you can take to kind of block the production of different things that it needs to help leverage your diet. Okay, so stay tuned for more information about that.
All right, very good. Let's go to our final quiz question of the day. This is a true-falser.
True or false? It's possible for your body to make vitamin D through a glass window if the sun is shining.
Thank goodness. No, that's not the answer. For your reply, audience, Kay from Facebook, how much magnesium should we take before bed and how early should we take it? And I'll add what kind.
Depends on how much you're getting from the diet too. So personally, I take between 350 to 400 milligrams per day. So again, you have to realize that if you're taking magnesium oxide, which is a joke because you only absorb 3%, you're not going to even get that 400 scoop or a pill that they have, magnesium oxide. So you're getting like 20 milligrams. So you go, oh, well, I'll just take more. Yeah, well, then you're going to get diarrhea. So it's a laxative. So I think magnesium glycinate is a much better form to absorb 80%. But if you're taking, let's say you're taking 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, you're only going to get 80% of that. And then they set the standards for magnesium about between 380 to 420. But again, these are like 100 years old, and they're based on preventing a certain thing, but they're not based on therapeutic, creating therapeutic effects if you're very deficient. Because I do know if you have arrhythmia problems or atrial fibrillation or other problems requiring a lot more magnesium, you're going to have to, or even like migraine headaches, you're going to have to take double, triple, quadruple that to correct that deficiency, not just the bare minimum. The same thing with like B1. The RDAs for B1 are like 1.2 milligrams. I'm like, what? If you took just the bare minimum, you will never correct it. And this is why when people say, oh yeah, you can get your nutrition from your foods. Yeah, but what about if you have a health problem? Can you get it from your foods? Can you correct a health problem if it's a deficiency by having the normal RDAs? And the answer is no, you can't, because that's just about barely giving you, a tiny amount. So anyway, there's the thing called therapeutic doses, and that's a whole different discussion.
All right, very good. Here's a different discussion. Quiz question number 5, which asks, True false, good grief, audience, you did it instantly. True false, is it possible for your body to make vitamin D through a glass window if the sun is shining? And 95% of you say, no way. 5% say, oh, yes.
Yeah, you can't because the window, nearly 100% of it's blocked. Okay, so you're not going to get the UVB, which you need to convert that vitamin D. So if you're sitting in front of the window, I'm going to get enough sun today to get my vitamin D, you're not. And so unfortunately, you're going to have to get outside. Now, back in the early part of the century, they had sanitariums where they would basically, I mean, this is like a vitamin D therapy. Be also UV as well. They would be out in the sun. You'd go to these places all over the world, and you would sit and just get sun as your therapy. And then what happened? They switched it where you're inside with glass, and it didn't work anymore. Interesting. So that's just some interesting data that you just need to get outside more and get some more sun.
All right, audience, let's get out there. Avery, let's see, Avery from YouTube, what's the effective way to help a child get rid of excess phlegm? Poor kid.
NAC.
Oh, okay, we'll get some of that.
And then also some people, you need to clean up the diet as well. I'm very much against homogenized skim milk, okay? Because it's like it's the lowest quality milk. I would prefer you get your dairy from fermented, higher quality products like cheese and even yogurt and kefir, or whole milk or raw milk. That would be the best. Not the skim, pasteurized, homogenized milk, especially early on as an infant, because there's some data to show that your body can confuse those proteins with antibody proteins that can even stimulate or trigger autoimmune stuff, which I've talked about in the Tylenol video regarding RFK recently. You can check that out.
All right, very good. Claudia from YouTube, can ketosis, help with thyroid issues? And she didn't mention hypo or hyper, so is there a blanket
I think
answer?
it can, but there's some. What happens too is that I think with the thyroid in general, you just need to focus on the quality of protein, especially protein, and other things too. But having high quality animal protein. If you are hypothyroid, if you have hypothyroidism and you start doing plant-based proteins, good luck. I don't think it's going to help you. So you need a very complete, healthy, low carb to actually get your body on track, because we're dealing with hormones, and not go low fat, because you need also cholesterol to actually as raw material. But of course, with the thyroid, we're dealing with trace minerals too, iodine and selenium. So yeah, there you go, Steve.
All right, very good. Let's go to HVY from Rumble. My wife's pancreas has stopped working after her cancer treatment. Do you have any suggestions that might get them functional again? That's a singular. Would intermittent fasting help?
I think it would, because you would stimulate autophagy, and you can really increase stem cells after 3 days of prolonged fasting. So that would be something super, super important. There is another remedy. I know Standard Process has it. It's called pancreatrophin PMG. You can start taking one of those before bed. It's really, really good for people that have autoimmune diseases to the pancreas, especially type 1 diabetes. And it's also good for people that have burnt out their islets of Langerhans. That's the cells that make insulin. However, Steve, I just thought of another really good idea for that. Anyone that has a problem with the cells that make insulin, diabetics, pre-diabetics, should be also taking something called TUDCA, which has some really interesting effects on something in your cells called the endoplasmic reticulum. It's a little part of the cell that makes hormones. And that cell, when it gets stressed, or that part of the cell that gets stressed, usually happens before the mitochondria goes down. So if you were to support it with TUDCA, and TUDCA has a very unique supportive action against the endoplasmic reticulum, you can actually then improve the hormone production even before the mitochondria kind of goes downhill. And so what we're dealing with that pancreas is it's like the amount of carbs that people eat and the amount of insulin that has to be pumped out, that's going to just create stress and stress and stress and stress and stress. So this is a way to help reverse that up. But I think what you're saying is from the chemo. Well, I would still try it and see what happened.
All right, very good. Well, audience, thank you for making this show so interesting each week. We really appreciate your hard work and questions. And with that, Dr. Berg, any final closing comments for this week?
Yeah, I had no idea what time it was, but have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week.